Good evening, friends. It's a great joy for me to meet you all in this first video session. First and foremost, we all know that we're all at home, especially the scare of coronavirus and also the 144 is being existed. So all of us do know that we should cooperate with the government and also we should eradicate coronavirus. So we'll do that. And by staying at home, let us not waste our time. Let us just understand one particular concept. Right. The regular classroom, I think we're not touched upon the working capital management. So in this video, I'm going to explain some ideas or some methods in which working capital management is much needed for a concern, whether it be a company or a proprietorship firm or a partnership or whatever be the business, whether they're going to be manufactured or retail. The working capital is very important. We all know that working capital is a collection of your current assets and your current liabilities. So current assets minus your current liabilities gives you the net working capital. If you want to know only the gross working capital, we will take only the current assets into account. Normally there are two kinds of working capital. One is the permanent working capital, and another one is the temporary working capital. So the permanent working capital we call it as the fixed working capital as well. Right. Why you need a permanent working capital? So there should be a minimum amount of working capital normally needed for running a business, especially for the day-to-day operations of the concern. So that is called as permanent working capital. And when any capital which is required over and above the permanent working capital is called as the temporary working capital. That might be in addition to the required working capital that normally we do have in our business. Right. There is certain need for having a working capital in every concern, whether it be manufacturer or retail. They will plan for the regular operations, how they can uh, have cash at hand, how well they can have some assets which can be transferred or transformed into cash immediately, probably within a year or within 6 months period or within 3 months period, whatever. First thing is we all know that when you have a manufacturing concern, we do have to purchase raw materials. So the first basic concept is buying the raw materials with the cash in hand, and finally you are going to convert the raw materials into finished product. So while doing this conversion process, the raw materials will be in the inputs for the manufacturer. While that is going to be in the manufacturing stage, we call it as the working process. Right. So we start with cash and we buy the raw materials, and the raw materials are being inputted into the machinery, and it is considered to be the working process, and working process is being converted to finished goods. And once you have the finished goods on hand, we sell the goods in the market. Once you sell it, it either you will receive cash immediately or you might be giving some credit for the customer. As such, you'll be having debtors, and from the debtors, once again you collect the cash. So it is a cycle. You start with cash and finally you end up with cash. Right. What is the need for working capital? So initially, we all know that we need raw materials for manufacture. So what we do is, we buy raw materials, pay the wages, pay salary, pay rent. So for all this, we need some money, and also for having selling cost, marketing cost, and all that, we need some money. So that is the need why we need to have an optimal working capital on hand. There are certain importance why this working capital is very much essential for a company. When you want to have a continuous production, we need to have some money on hand. So that is the need. You need to have working capital. You want to have a good solid position. Immediately when crisis happens, you want to convert your money, you want to convert your stock to cash, you need some working capital. And also you need to pay back easy loans and also to give some cash discounts and all that, we need some money. And when you're going to do that, we should always be very particular to see that we have an optimal working capital. Sometimes we will not be able to understand why this optimal capital has to be there. Even if you're going to have excessive working capital, it's going to be a problem because you're going to lock your money into the business. Nothing is going to happen. If your working capital is much below, then naturally, during the crisis period, you will not be in a position to incur the expenditure or pay back some expenses during the operation cycle. So you must have an optimal working capital. Right. There are certain factors to determine the working capital position. The first thing is what kind of a business, the nature of business. You must know what is the size of the business. If it is going to be a very huge business, working capital requirement is going to be much larger. You must see into the size. Then what is the time consumption for manufacturing a particular product? What is the quantity? How much the quantity you're going to produce? Sometimes you might be having seasonal fluctuations as well. So that is also one of the major problems. And there will be some fluctuations in the supply from the suppliers, the speed of turnover, how fast you're able to sell your product and convert the money, convert the stock into cash. So all this, what are the terms of sale that they've entered into, level of taxes that they're going to pay to the government. So working capital management is very essential, especially to determine how you're going to have the optimal capital structure or optimal working capital for your company. And when you want to have a working capital, there are two kinds of sources from which working capital can be brought in. One is financing of permanent working capital, how we are going to finance a permanent working capital, and financing of temporary working capital. So there should be two kinds of sources available to cater to the needs of permanent and the temporary working capital. So when you call the permanent working capital, there are such approaches. First thing is financing of permanent working capital. You can use the long-term sources like you have issue of shares, you have preferred shares, equity shares, debentures, public deposits, term loans, all these things. So with all the long-term investment, long-term funds you have, this can be used to make sure that you're having a permanent working capital or even the plumbing back of your money, profits. Whatever profits are coming, some of the profits will be distributed as dividends and some will be retained in the business, plugged back into the business. That can be used for creating permanent working capital. Right. When you want to have a financing for temporary working capital, one is to have the internal source, another one is to have the external sources. Internal, when you want to create a depreciated fund or sinking fund or even provision for taxation, whatever expenses which are being accrued, all these will be contributed towards creating your temporary working capital. Then when you want to go in for external sources, you don't have some internal factors get into your creation of a temporary working capital, but you want to have external sources. Then you can go with trade credit. That is just credit as commercial papers, bank credit, any kind of advances, what are getting, installment credit, all these of external sources can be used for creating your temporary working capital. But when you're doing this, there are three approaches for determining the appropriate financial risk. One is a matching principle, that is hedging or matching approach. So in this, the basic idea is to meet the need of the appropriate source. You want to have your short-term source, meet it with the short-term, or long-term, meet with the long-term. So short-term needs must be matched with the short-term source. Long-term need will be matched with your long-term source. And the conservative approach is that. What do you mean by conservative approach? In this, entire investment in the current assets will be financed from long-term sources. Or short-term funds will be used only for emergency purposes, and it will not be used to create your working capital. So all the long-term sources like the term loan, shares, debentures, and all that will be used to finance your that is the conservative approach. Another one is the aggressive approach. Aggressive means all your short-term need, all your short-term requirements has to be met only with your short-term sources. So you should not use any kind of long-term sources here. Right. When you do this, you have an operating cycle. So when you consider operating cycle, I've given you the material, so you can go there. You can see that the formula. It's a very simple one. So it requires the uh, raw material average period and also the work in progress average period, the finished goods average period, debtors collection period, and the creditors payment period. If you're able to have all this, a simple formula is there. The formula goes like this: O equal to R plus W plus F plus G minus C. Okay, so all the things, if you're doing it, you will be able to get the operation cycle. With this, I like to end up with a theoretical approach. The next lesson, I will come with solving the problem. Okay, I'll explain how the problem has to be solved, and the problem is already given in the material. So please go through the materials before you listen to my second video. Thank you all once again, and remember, be at home and be safe. God bless you all.